Hello everyone and welcome to Module 1, What Works in Adult ESL. I hope you're ready to engage some new ideas and adapt some old ones when you start to tutor one-to-one. We have some proven strategies for you to try out. Some of the ideas come out of a national study on what works in adult ESL. Others are based on the lesson flow, which you may remember. In this module, we'll show you how to adapt the evidence-based practices that were developed for group instruction to a one-to-one tutoring context. So this is what you can expect in this module. First, we will show you a video that you may remember. It's called Coming to America and introduces us to the various backgrounds and experiences of adult ESL students. Notice the varied educational backgrounds of the students and the different goals that they bring to the learning process and to life in general. Next, we will explain how you can adapt the lesson flow and make it work in a one-to-one session. We'll share some research on what works as promised. And the most controversial of which, by the way, was the use of the native language with ESL students. We will have you, as you do with all the students, remember a few key points, and we will leave you with some resources to adapt to your own setting. Who are our students? Think about the diversity of immigrants and refugees coming to the United States, all with different backgrounds, dreams, and goals. Next is a video that has students tell their stories in their own voices.
In a dynamic, often tumultuous world, one thing remains constant: the magnetic pull of the American dream. Each year, thousands of people make a bold decision to leave their homelands and immigrate to the United States. Many of them find their way to Central Texas. In this program, we'll meet 6 of these immigrants. Ikhlas, 34, is from Baghdad, Iraq. When life in her war-torn country became unbearable, she fled to the United States with her husband and 3 children. Olga, 48, moved to the U.S. from Tulancingo, Mexico, when she was 20 years old, looking for a better life. Now a grandmother, she recently acted on a lifelong dream to learn English and has plans for continuing her education. Vera is from Ekaterinburg, Russia. Vera was a television and theater producer in Russia, where she earned 2 degrees in the arts. She gave up her career in her homeland to provide a better life for her daughter, who now works as a model in Dallas. Primo, 47, is from Pinar del Rio, Cuba, situated in a region of mountain ranges and tobacco fields. Primo taught mathematics and physics in Cuba before moving to the U.S. with his family. He's studying English and hopes to one day teach again. Rusi, 49, is from the city of Uvira in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. She lived near beautiful Lake Tanganyika until tribal warfare forced her to move to the United States, where she now lives with her 6 children. Samuel, 27, is from Quetzaltenango, Guatemala. He came to the U.S. to look for work to help his impoverished family. He's learned enough English through a workplace literacy program to tend bar in a popular restaurant. As these immigrants reveal in our program, learning another language as an adult is difficult. It takes a sustained effort that requires both courage and perseverance. Like thousands of others, they see English as the key to a better life, and recognize that ESL classes are there to help them learn and thrive.
I came to America because I have too much problem in my country. Before in my country, I am scared, me and my family, I am cry every day, because my country sometimes fight together.
Yo vine a los Estados Unidos por la situación económica.
I came to the United States because of my economic situation. My family is poor and doesn't have enough money to afford a house or sufficient funds for anything.
I was a refugee in Africa, and we were living in a refugee camp. Immigration officials from the American Embassy came to resettle us to this country.
I came looking for a better life, and I wanted my children to live in a country as great as the United States. I wanted my children to live in a country that was free, a democratic place they could live like real human beings.
Russian people talking about United States. United States, it's country of opportunities. I'm agreed, completely agreed, especially with young generation, with my daughter. So I stay here for her best future.
I was very insecure in my country, but here in America, I live in peace. There's no war. I can work and make good money.
I have 3 children, and my children now go to school, and them can speak English with everybody, and USA very safe for them.
Take a quick look at these questions. Wouldn't it be good to share the answers with your colleagues? Wouldn't it be fun to meet some of these students and get to know them better? You know that the English Forward approach supports group instruction, but we know that sometimes a student either cannot come to a class or has special needs that are best met through one-to-one tutoring. Let's look at some of the limitations of one-to-one tutoring. Here are some of the limitations of one-to-one tutoring compared to teaching a class. Students just don't get the same opportunities to get to know each other and try out their ideas on different people. But one-on-one tutoring also offers some distinct advantages, especially for a student who needs personal attention because of learning difficulties or low literacy skills in the native language. Let's look at these next. Clearly, one of the greatest advantages of working one-to-one is the personal attention you're able to give a student and the way you can customize a lesson. That's pretty exciting. Most importantly, you have a chance to get to know your students and offer lots of opportunities for conversation about all kinds of things. Interests, details of their country, stories in the news. So take advantage of that. And don't spend most of your precious time with a textbook or worksheet designed for a class. You have seen the lesson flow in your training. And if you have used the English Forward curriculum, you have become quite familiar with each component. But what if you teach one student? How can you make each step in the lesson flow work for a single person? The next section will show you exactly how to do that. If you are using the lesson flow, you are part of a movement. There is a lot of information in the English Forward Instructor Guide on how to make the lesson flow come alive. In this segment, we want to show you how to adapt each component to tutoring one-to-one. Each step we discuss appears in red on the slide. To get your lesson off to a good start, you can do any of the following. Bring in an object from your Realia toolkit, a puzzle of the US, for example, or a cell phone. Or write a key word on chart paper and brainstorm ideas and vocabulary related to the concept. For example, you might write house or city and invite your student to generate related words. You then capture these words on a word web or semantic map. In this component of the lesson flow, you invite your students to listen to a few sentences about a topic so she gets a chance to hear what's called connected speech. This is extremely important if your students are ever to understand the radio news or other narrations, or the kind of lectures they will hear in a training or an academic class. It may feel a bit awkward at first to do this, so you may want to start your presentation with a YouTube video clip. After a while, you'll feel comfortable doing it yourself. You probably ask your students a lot of personal questions already, and that's both important and really worthwhile. But students also need to pay attention to information that they hear and read. And you want to help them see how much they do or don't understand so they can focus in on details. Using true-false cards is a quick and easy way to do that even with one student. And it's fun too. In step 4, you get ready to set up whatever language task you want the students to do with you. Don't worry, in section 6 of this module, Adapting Learning Tasks for One-to-One Tutoring, we will give you lots of practical ideas on how to adapt group tasks to working with a single student. Step 5, guided practice, won't take long if you work with one student at a time. You simply say, let's try the task, and then clarify if your directions are confusing, or back up if the task is too difficult, and simplify. Step 6, small group work, is the one step in the lesson flow that will require some planning and adjustment as you work one-to-one. You won't be able to set up a small group, but you can certainly act as a partner with your student and create some interesting peer-to-peer activities. We will have lots of ideas on how to do that later on in the module. Step 7, How English Works, gives your students a chance to practice key skills related to the structure of English, world knowledge, pronunciation, grammar, etc. You can also discuss sociocultural information at this point, such as what questions are okay to ask in U.S. culture and where to be careful. You know that it's not a good idea to ask someone how much money she makes, but your student might not. The point is to connect whatever knowledge about language and culture you discuss to the overall theme of your lesson. It makes it that much easier for your students to remember. The quick check is a good way to end the lesson by summarizing key points and getting feedback, rather than simply stopping whenever time runs out. Of course, in a one-to-one session, you could simply ask a student, what did you learn today? What should we talk about next? What was easy? What was difficult? But sometimes it's helpful for both of you if the student writes it down. I'd like to spend a bit of time to tell you about the findings from a national study conducted by the American Institutes for Research and Literacy Work International, my little company. The study focused on what works in adult ESL literacy and involved hundreds of students speaking 20 different languages. We observed classes, wrote down what teachers did, and related the instructional strategies the teachers used to students' scores on a variety of assessments, all to determine which methods were the most successful. As part of the What Works study, we visited over 40 programs across the US and talked with more than 400 students. We also used a number of different tests for pre- and post-assessments. And we found that a set of 3 strategies, which you see on the slide, if consistently used, were the most effective in increasing student English skills. We'll explain these strategies one by one. Since language is multidimensional and no one method works for every learner, it's important to use multiple strategies to help your student get English and learn to communicate. Your student will need many opportunities to hear English and to use English without worrying too much about making mistakes. But, as you know, it is also important to learn what correct English sounds like. So inviting students to develop fluency skills through open-ended conversations and also, in a different part of your lesson, to learn how English works is a highly effective strategy. And of course, both skills, fluency and accuracy, require lots of practice. Bringing in the outside was my favorite finding. Teachers whose lessons focused on what their students needed to do in their daily lives and brought in real stuff were much more successful than those who simply relied on textbooks. You can see where a set of realia from your toolkit would be very useful. And don't forget to check out suggestions in the toolkit and in the toolkit generator on the English Forward website. Let's look at some examples of the kinds of items you can use to bring in the outside. Don't forget to have your students bring in things from home, including utility bills, announcement from a child's school, brochures she might get in a clinic, or a flyer from a store. That should give you lots of things to discuss. Now let's watch how Karen, the teacher in Chicago, helps older students understand and remember concepts that are important to them, the names of vegetables and what they cost. Many of these students had gardens back home, and stuffed peppers was a favorite dish.
Okay, I have some pictures. I have some pictures. Who wants to come up? Who wants to come up and do a picture? Anybody? Samka. Samka. Where does this go? Don't ask. Where does it go here? Where does it go here?
Green, yellow, red.
Good. Green, yellow, red. Peppers. Good. Here's a new one. This one I bought at the farm. What's this?
Tomato.
Tomato? What kind of potato?
Sweet potato.
Sweet potato. Sweet potato. I bought this at the farm. Sweet potato. Sweet potato. Good. What did you ask in English? In English.
Excuse me, how much tomato? Oh, no, not tomato. Watermelon.
Watermelon. Good. Anybody else want? What did you ask?
I don't know. $4.
2 for
$4.
2 for $4.
Yes.
I'm question
What time is close? She says 6 o'clock.
Hello, excuse me, how much peppers? $15. One big. Kako se kaže bosanka? Watermelon, one. $2. Okay, finish.
Sweet peppers. Excuse me, very sweet peppers. Tomata. Very sweet peppers. Excuse me, very sweet peppers.
This is per pound. This is per pound. And here we have 2 pounds. This is 2 pounds. So this is $1.48 for 2 pounds. 2 pounds. Okay. So at Chicago Produce, how much were the sweet potatoes per pound?
Sweet potato per pound is
69 cents. Pounds. Per pound. So at the farm, they were 49 cents. If we compare, who is better?
It's better.
Which is cheaper?
10.
Which is cheaper?
20 cents.
But
The farm. The farm is cheaper. Okay. I will ask you a question. Is that a good price? Is that a good price?
Yes.
first maybe, another is expensive.
Hmm?
Maybe.
Maybe
The green
75,
peppers
that's okay.
is a good price?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, but is what's better, the farm or the store?
5, 7, 3, 7. Sami mora ja
Tako je.
Ajde. Please, shut up! 25 and 2, 27. Give 37.
37,50.
37
$37, 57 cents.
50 cents.
50
Okay. So at the store, if you were to buy 50 pounds of peppers, that big bag that you had, you would pay $37.50. Look at the difference. Look, the store, Ibro said $37.50. The farm, $15. Big difference. That is a lot cheaper. Cheaper. Much cheaper. So the farm, was that a good price? Is that a good price? At the farm?
Yes.
25 different dollars.
How much?
25 different dollars.
A difference of $25. That's how much money you saved.
Yes.
How much money you saved.
This was our most controversial finding. In beginning level classrooms, where the native language was used strategically and sensibly, students showed higher gains in English than in classrooms where only English was used. It stands to reason that if students can use a language they know to help each other understand a point, or if the teacher briefly explains something in the native language, attention and comprehension increase. That way, the student can focus on the task at hand instead of being confused by an explanation in English that she does not fully understand. Here on the slide are some examples of native language use we saw in the study. To see the strategy used in a real classroom, watch the next video. It shows Roseanne, a teacher in the What Works study, teach a group of very low-level learners, all Spanish speakers. She uses Spanish with the students, who are all displaced workers with very little confidence in their own ability to understand English.
Okay, students, hoy vamos a comenzar lecciones en que el tema habla de jobs, de trabajos, ¿ok? La lección de hoy es el primer lección porque vamos a hablar de su primer trabajo, ¿sí? De su primer trabajo. Your first job, ¿ok? I know, I know, that's okay. No lo estudiaron, that's fine. Es una lección. Lo vamos a estudiar hoy, ¿ok? Lo que vamos a comenzar esta lección enseñándole fotos de personas en sus diferentes trabajos, ¿ok? Quiero que vean las fotos y yo les voy a hacer preguntas sobre qué trabajo tienen, qué trabajo hacen, ¿ok? Maybe qué están haciendo. Preguntas así, ¿sí? In English. Again, yo voy a preguntar en inglés y me gustaría que ustedes estuvieran entendiendo, escucharon y traten de contestar en la manera que puedan.
But what if you don't speak the language that your student speaks? Here you see a few tips. We'll give you a minute to read these. I'm hoping that you already noticed how many small group tasks from English Forward can be adapted to one-to-one tutoring. The tables on the next 3 slides offer you a bunch of ideas on turning group activities into activities that you can do with a single student. You just need to be willing to be a partner in the learning process. Please pause at each table, consider the ideas, then continue and stop again. Please keep in mind that when you teach one student at a time, your role is likely to change from being the sage on the stage in front of a class to the guide on the side as a tutor. I'm hoping you take full advantage of the opportunity.